Oh, I got one right here. I don't even know where
All right, hey, good evening, everybody, and thanks for coming to the September meeting of the Grayson County Board of Supervisors. Meeting is now officially called to order, and I'll ask Mr. Smith to do the invocation and lead us in the pledge.
Well, thank you for the day that's been given, for this great county that we live in, and for the displaced citizens that have come out tonight to hear about what's going on in their county. We pray that you'll be at our board as they make decisions, be with each one of them, do what you do for us. We'll praise your name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Mr. Hash is out of town, but he is participating via PTC. Just a reminder that the quorum's on the back of the agenda. Most of y'all, I think, have been here a couple of times, looking out in the audience, so you're probably familiar with it. But if not, please adhere to that. Before I ask for approval of the agenda for the board, just need one modification under new business. We need want to add the housing rehab specialist for Eagle Bottom Project Phase 2 as a new business item. And that'll go under new business. So with that change or addition, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. Have a motion? Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. I'm also aye. Okay. All right. Seeing public hearing none, we'll jump down to reports and presentations. First up is Grayson. Should say the ag fair.
We have our video.
I didn't get a bit.
Is it on there?
I don't have a video.
Yeah, I have a jump drive. We can go ahead and introduce ourselves. There you go. I'm Michelle Pridgeon. I am the director of Grayson Land Care. I'm also the Independent Farmers Market Manager. And
Can you speak a little closer?
I am a member of the Ag Advisory Board and also on the Grayson County Fair Board.
I'm Elizabeth Hash. I work full-time with Skyline National Bank, and I am a member of the Fair Committee. I have been since 2018. I serve as our treasurer for the committee and for the foundation. I'm also on the Ag Advisory Committee too for the county.
And if we have the video, if you'll go ahead and show that. We'd like to just take a minute and show you a short video of highlights from the Grayson County Fair this year. I think the one thing we missed was right at the very beginning, we had the wall of sponsors right as you walked in the fair. And that was one thing. The Carroll County ladies have been extremely helpful with the fair since the very beginning in 2018. And when they saw the sponsorship wall, they went, wow, we need to do that at our fair. So when we can impress Carroll County, we've done a good job. You have a brief history in your packet. 2018 was the first year we had the Grayson County Fair. And our motto that year was a small success rather than a large failure. And so we hitched up with the livestock show, and we had 3 categories of exhibits. And that was pretty much the extent of the fair. In 2019, we had a sizable increase in exhibits, and we had some activities with the fair. 2020 knocked us back a bit because of COVID. 2021, we had a nice fair again. Entries were a little bit down and attendance was a little bit low. This year, we've really made a major jump. We had over 1,000 people, as far as we could count, coming to the fair. As best we could guess, last year we were maybe around 500. We had 93 volunteers. And of those 93 volunteers, there were over 2,000 volunteer hours. 1,100 of that was from our 9 paid county employees. Our hay bale contest, which was won by Cresthaven Dairy, we had 606 people vote on that. Our fair entries tripled, our participants tripled, and 38 of the people who participated in the actual exhibits were youth. We had lots of food vendors this year. We had the dog show grew quite a bit. The quilt show, we've gone to a people's choice to again increase participation from the public. And we had 273 people voting for that. And one really cool thing, we have a new youth director for the Grayson County Library for their youth program. She had come to the farmer's market and had the kids draw on quilt squares. And even though she had never made a quilt before, she put all the kids' drawings into a quilt, and she won Best in Show for the youth quilt. So that was awesome. We had lots of other youth at the fair. We had the Grayson County FFA there doing the Stockman show. We had students from Freeze Middle School. And we also had students from the high school here in Grayson County, as well as other miscellaneous youth who entered our youth poster contest. We've gone to a brand new logo, which you see in the center of the screen. And what we'll use the youth poster contest winners for is when we're sending out mailings and other advertising. We also have a brand new website, and our social media presence has also gone way up by 145%. So we've had 624 followers. The marketing this year, thanks to Laurie Ellis, was really excellent. and Elizabeth and the entire crew did a great job with attracting sponsors. One of the pictures you saw, there was a young woman with a whole array of blue ribbons. That was Macy Sperlin. I think she had 4 Best in shows and about 12 blues. So she was hands down the ribbon winner. Another one is you see the 3 young men in the picture. Those are the Johnson boys. They have won the tomato competition every year. So it's fun to see these kids come back and be really involved. So now I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Yeah, so since I am the treasurer, I'm gonna talk about the money and the fun stuff, right? So this year, along with all of our entries, participation, everything else, was the most sponsorship that we'd ever received too. So we had over 50 sponsors and vendors. So that's individuals and businesses from around the county and outside of the county who wanted to help us make this a successful fair for our county. We started a new tiered level of sponsorship program. So we had gold, silver, bronze, and friends of the fair. Obviously, with each of these, you had different number brackets, so 200 plus, 500 plus, 1,000 plus. Also with that, it meant that these businesses got different types of benefits from their level of sponsorship. So we hung their banners up. If you were a $1,000 member, we displayed, like Michelle said, we displayed all of our sponsors as soon as you walked in the fair this year, so that everyone could be seen and recognized for their help. So we had 5 gold level sponsors this year: Grayson County, Bottomley's, Skyline National Bank, RPM, and Precision Flooring. So we're very, very grateful for them and all of our other sponsors that we had as well. So total sponsorship that we got from outside of the county was around $11,000. County sponsorship was $6,000 for this past year. We also had in kind, which basically non-monetary donations of, we're going to guess, around $5,000. That's a really hard number to peg for people. The biggest of those we would say would be Bottomley's for letting us use their facility for free. We're very, very grateful for them for that. It's a great facility that we can use in or outdoor, depending on the weather. They let us use the facility. They gave us their employees time throughout the week. They spent about 7 days beforehand and about more than 80 hours of their time beforehand in the weekend helping us make this a success. Other ideas or other ways that we had in-kind donations, all of the kids' activities, the bouncy houses were donated by Grayson Highland Farms, free of charge. All of our volunteer hours that people helped, the sawdust was donated by Southwest Farm Supply. We also had radio advertisements that were given to us as well. So we thank all of our different types of levels of sponsorship. So all in all, that would be about $27,000 that we had in sponsorship this year, which is awesome. I just want to give a thank you to all the people and businesses who helped us with this fair, and we hope that we continue to get that sponsorship. And thank the people of the fair committee who helped us go out and explain to people why this is an important thing to sponsor. As far as expenses for 2023, we had a little over $12,000 in expenses. So I'm just giving you guys an idea of how much it takes to actually run this. So last year we talked about our committee. So last year, I'm sure you guys remember, we were all begging for volunteers last year. You guys pulled through. I say you guys as a whole, because I don't really know who all that means, but we thank you because we did have a lot more people actively involved in helping us plan the fair this year, which was great. This year we had around 15 active committee members that came to almost every meeting and helped us plan throughout the process. 6 of those are county employees. We meet monthly. We divide up into different types of subcommittees, so that way we're more focused on what we're all working on. So last year we had 9 active members and we went up to 15. So I would call that a pretty big success. So keep those coming. If anybody thinks of someone who would be a great help to our team, we'd love to have them come our way. So overall, Michelle mentioned the number of volunteers. We had at least 50 volunteers plus to actually execute the weekend. That's 4 active days. We coordinated over 30 vendors for setup and various needs and provided access and comfort for around 1,000 people this year for the fair. And like Michelle said, again, I'm going to say we had about 2,200 hours, a little over that, spent with volunteer time. So thank you guys for helping push that initiative, and we hope that you continue in the future. So Obviously, an initiative for Grayson County has always been to grow our county fair. 2023 was the best year that we've had yet, and I hope that we can just keep going in that positive direction and growing every year. We've had a lot of great positive comments that this year was really great, very ag focused. It was a great place for the kids to be able to come and have a good time, and it truly highlighted Grayson County's agriculture community. So thank you guys, and we hope that we can keep growing. So I know now isn't the time that we request. Last year we upped our request from the county. This year we'd like to keep it at the $6,000 that we asked for last year. I know we submit a formal request later in the year, but going ahead and putting that out there. Our next meeting is next Thursday, September 21st at 2 p.m. at the Gate Center. We meet on the third Thursday of every month at 2. So let us know if you have questions or have any more information for us. Thank you.
Question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike, anything?
Right, so that, we went over on, Friday, really enjoyed it. Looks like it's, really growing, and it's a great asset for the county.
So layout was much different this time than last time. What's your take on?
It worked much better. What we realized last year is vendors kind of appeared and we didn't do the best job of organizing them. So we had them back to back this year, which made the flow around the fair much better. Having the food in the very front, having that single access through the center where we could showcase the sponsors. That was also where we were able to set up tables for food. Also having that front door open and the back door open made a huge difference in the temperature in the fair. We had airflow going through. It was a great improvement. That was not something we expected, but it was a really pleasant surprise. I think Kevin said that the youth livestock show numbers were about the same. We may have had more participation in some of the smaller not crops, but small livestock, the chickens and the pigs, I think went up. So all in all, there was really good youth participation throughout the fair. Also in a lot of the activities, you saw the one little kid that's when they were throwing the hay bales. So all in all, I think it's important with ag being our biggest industry here in the county. Any way we can expose our kids to agriculture is a real value.
Any insight to what you think you might do next year? Any things emerging right now that you might want to try differently?
Maybe horses?
Yeah, I think there was some talk about horses. Maybe not necessarily a horse show.
But maybe like a breed, just showing off some different horse breeds. But I mean, especially with the Highlands Horse Trail here, we have a very large active horse community. And so to be able to bring some of those folks into the fair, I think would also be an asset.
Well, I think I speak on behalf of all the citizens that not having the dunking booth there.
I was about to make that comment. Yeah, next year we will have the dunking booth for all of our people here.
It was
Maybe
a hot
maybe
commodity.
it's me, I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
No, it was a hot commodity. We actually saw the donkey booth heading towards the trout pail.
Yeah, it was a hot topic there for a little bit of an investigation going on. So
Hey,
we'll get it locked down next year. Don't worry.
imagine how that happened. Thank you very much for all the work y'all do.
Thanks.
It's really, really well done fair. I had a great time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, Baywood final presentation. I think this is a video with George Silman's not able to attend, right?
That's correct.
Hello, my name is Jordan Stidham. I work with Sprout Financial. We were hired by Opportunity Appalachia to do a feasibility study in partnership with the community and the county on the old Baywood Elementary School. Some of the things we were looking at were issues that were brought up in the design phase of it, such as the well, the septic, the deed, the overall cost, and ways that the county could potentially pay for that in the development phase, as well as in the overall sustainability part of this project. Let's go over the overall design recap of this project. For those of you that have attended prior meetings, you may be familiar with this overall concept, but for those of you who are not, I'll go through it. The bottom part of the school is going to be split into two. You have the gym, the stage, and the old kitchen. That kitchen will be converted to a commercial kitchen to be used as a community center for fundraising, birthdays. If you're a small business, caterer, bakery, and you want to use the commercial kitchen, it's just an all-around resource for the community to use. The other part of the downstairs will be designated for childcare. That'll be a partnership between a nonprofit public income-based childcare center, partnering up with a private for-profit for those in the community that are over the income limits. That way everyone gets access to the childcare. The upstairs will be an educational center focused on things like engineering, robotics, nursing, business, and trying to bring in companies from trades like HVAC, electrician, plumbing, bringing everyone together in this educational component to allow the students to get exposure to these career fields, but also community members who maybe want to go into one of these careers, want to look at a career change. And those will be in partnership with people like Virginia Tech, Bluefield University that we've identified in our study. On the outside, we're looking at a walking trail around the perimeter, pickleball, basketball, and an exercise court in the old recreational court, a community garden that leads up to agricultural and event center. On the opposite, or on the further side of that, we'll be looking at recreational fields such as softball, baseball, football, and soccer. So look, I'll be over phases of this project. So there's three main picture phases. There's phase one, which is your feasibility. That's what we are currently in and have just finished up. So this report is the final report of phase one feasibility. Phase two is your pre-development. So when you go in to apply for grants and tax credits and things like that, there are certain things you have to have done beforehand and steps that must be taken before those applications can go in, such as an environmental, geotechnical, 5-year business plan. And with the historic tax credit, you have to try to get the school put on the national historic registry. So phase two, your pre-development, is going to be those details that are required to meet these applications. And then the final phase is going to be the overall development. So feasibility is done. Once the pre-development is done, all those applications we put together and sent in for the grants themselves. Once the grants are awarded and the county is able to get the funding all together and bid out the jobs, then you'll go into the actual development, which would be the construction of the project. Within the development phase, we have the development broken down into 4 phases. So we did not want this project to be an all or nothing project. So phase one, we have as the school itself and the very immediate surrounding area, such as the playground or the pre-K and childcare as required by state licensing. And here's a breakdown of the estimated cost of phase one. We're looking at an estimated $5,296,380. Phase two of the development phase will be the surrounding outside area of the school. So the walking track, the athletic courts, the upper parking lot, community garden. We're estimating that to come in at approximately $835,170. Phase three would be the agricultural and events. This would be a dual purpose for 4-H, FFA type educational components for our community. And then the time used for that, it hosts festivals, carnivals, fundraisers, concerts, different things like that. Estimated cost for this, we have at $2,191,860. And then the final phase of the development phase is the recreational ball fields. You can see the design we have here is sort of an overlay, so a dual purpose baseball softball overlays with a wall soccer. And it's sort of designed for like Pee-wee and rec league use, with the option for the high school students to use the softball and baseball field. And for that phase, we have that priced at $293,970. And here's an overall cost summary, just bringing all that together. Total estimated cost is $8,617,380. Again, that was designed in phasing so that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. And the county can choose to only do phase one or phase 1 and 4, and table the other two. It can be broken up in different ways. And here are the different potential funding opportunities we have. So for phase 1, we've identified the potential for up to $5.6 million. Phase 2, $225,000. Phase 3, we were unable to locate grants for. And phase 4, we're looking at an estimated around $125,000. Now with phase 1, we've overestimated that and put up more to apply for than is needed, for the reason being that all grants they're competitive. So just because you apply for them doesn't mean you will get them. Now, this is a great project, and I think it has a lot of potential for getting these grants, but there is an understanding that these things are all competitive. And so that includes the historic tax credit portion of this. So some of the initial concerns that we wanted to address was the well and septic, need, and the funding. So the well and septic, according to Hurt Profit, they both, with a little bit of cleaning and upgrades, as mentioned in the full report to the county, can support phase 1 and 2, not 3 and 4. If the county were to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, there would need to be a new septic system put in for phase 3 and 4, as well as a new well drill at approximately $55,000. The deed that we found, according to the county attorney, was recorded whenever the school board transferred ownership to the county, and that deed that is on file in the county does not show a clawback feature on the current school. And with the funding, as said before, we have identified the grants and the tax credits. With these, they are competitive, but there's a good bit of resources out there for particularly phase 1 of this project. So in conclusion, we think that overall it's a great project. We think phase 3 is a great idea and a great resource for the community. The county will need to make special consideration when it comes to phase 3 due to the fact that we were unable to locate any grants for that. And so the next step in this process is going to be going forward with the pre-development. There are 3 grants that have been identified that would potentially pay for the pre-development. So the county would apply for those grants and use that pre-development money to iron out all the little details needed for the big grants, such as your environmental, geotechnical, your 5-year business plan, and those different things like that. So the next steps in this would be reaching out to other organizations, potentially Mount Rogers PBC, having them help with applying for these pre-development grants. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to work on this project.
County Administrator.
So I guess, I'm good. From my perspective, just to kind of recap what Jordan talked about, we're in the pre-development phase. It's Sprout Financial working with the county apply for 1 or more pre-development grants the Appalachian region, the redevelopment block, and the industrial revitalization block. This phase will be used in the details needed for a competitive grant application. This includes a detailed 5-year business plan, environmental and geotech studies, working with project partners to identify population served, and things like leasing agreements, oversight, management, and licensing. If successful, this phase should be at no cost to the county, assuming awards of pre-simulation. I guess my question really for the board is, would you want staff to continue on pursuing this project at this time in the pre-development phase?
Comments, thoughts?
No cost to the county to move forward.
The staff time. Nothing, no cost. No other cost.
I'm all in.
Let's go see what we can do with it. It's a shame sitting there in the state that we're getting, and if it's not done something with it.
I guess I'm a little confused, a little apprehensive, because I feel like if we start the grant process, it's gonna continue to grow, and eventually, I mean, he reiterated time and time again, they're not guaranteed. So I'm just concerned that we're gonna get ourselves in a situation where we're gonna have to raise taxes to support the project. If we had some kind of assurance that we could do this with grants, or whatever grants we could get to do what we could get, we may have to scale back the project as he's presented it and do it strictly on grants. I would be 100% for that if we could come to consensus and do it strictly on grants. But I'm also, this project has already been approved last year. It was tabled, if I'm not mistaken. Is that, where are we at with that? I know you weren't here a year ago, so maybe my colleagues on the board can help me with that, but we were in a budget session and this project was tabled, if I remember correctly. And I was told time and time again, 4-1, this was going forward, whether I liked it or not. So I guess my question is, what happened with the original motion that was passed 4-1 to go forward with it? Are we still, Mr. Vice Chair, do you recall?
I do. We pulled it out of the budget.
So it wasn't tabled.
It was completely killed last year during budget session.
Okay.
And then Jordan Stidham came along with a new concept. And they've had meetings, and this is the new concept that we're looking at. And if I understand it correctly, you're wanting to move forward to see if we can find grant funding.
That's it. Yes, that's what
See if we can find grant funding for the pre-development phase.
Not the project itself, the pre-development phase. That's really how this is broken out.
Mr.
Sorry. So if we go with the pre-development phases, are we going to be locked into to anything else, or is that just they're giving us money to get the building ready, or what's the long term of that? Because this is part of this too. Presentation listed 4 phases, but phase 5 is part of the feasibility. Should have been a part of the feasibility study. Is what's the long term cost going to be? Like, are we going to have to hire employees to maintain the building? To manage the building, what's the long-term projected cost to the county?
So
I didn't see that. There wasn't a phase 5.
I don't know that we have an answer. We just got this on Monday night, I think.
Yeah, I was at the meeting Monday night.
That's when we got the final
Right.
report, which is we got $65,000 of grant money to do this initial study. I don't know if we have an answer for you yet on long-term cost, or if we can even if we can fund this through grant funding. I think the work has to be done first to see if we can accomplish this. And then there would be in my mind, there would be a different discussion on, okay, this is where we're at with grant funding. This is what we've been able to acquire. This is where we think we are. And this now, do we want to move forward to the next phase?
Hey, Mr. Hash,
Yes.
Any, go ahead.
I think, if we can get the grants there, I think initially there was a project that was worthwhile and worthy in pursuing for the residents of the county and Baywood community. I can't see the harm in pursuing that and seeing where that leads. We know that we have a need for childcare. I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that's still in there. And this was the avenue that we were told we fell short, was in doing feasibility study, and appears to be that there, has been uses that have been found for the structure, and, that there's potential for it, rather than letting it become another blight on the county and in our community. And I think it grows the county forward and provides, something for the residents that's of value to them. So I don't see a problem with moving forward on at least researching the funding opportunities there.
Okay, I'm in support of the project. I think it was earlier this year, the Weldon Cooper Center out of UVA came out with an assessment, an analysis that Grayson County was one of 2 counties in Southwest Virginia that had an increase in population between 2020 and 2022. An increase of population. Over 2.5%. Now, 2 years prior to that, their study came out and said we were going to lose 22% population by 2040. So why is that? Now, a lot of things happen that we don't control, pandemic being a big one. All right. People want to get out of the urban areas, come to rural America. Great. Love it. But regardless, I think part of our job is to set the conditions for the future of the county. And one of those is preserving infrastructure that may be needed in the future. And as the school system has also seen their population stabilize and actually increase over the last couple of years. When we think about education opportunities and infrastructure that we already have, it's sure as heck a lot cheaper to preserve it and renovate it than it is to build new. Especially when it's talking about a new school, which the latest FACO estimate was about $30 million. All right. We're still paying on the grant school. All right. So thinking about the future of how we want to set the conditions for education is really important. And so therefore I'm in support of moving on to pre-development. Is it, one, it's no cost right now because we're going after grants. But 2, I think it sends a signal to the community and the rest of the county that we want to invest in the future of the citizens of this county and the future of the kids. A bunch of them are standing out here right now. So that's kind of where I'm at. So based on what you said, you need a motion from Russ to ask you to go forward.
That's what I would like, just to understand board's intention of this.
Okay. So, the county administrator's asked for a motion to move to pre-development phase, only. And I'll look for that at this time. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would just like to say, I'm a little apprehensive. We can move forward. I think it's anything we can do with grants and keep the tax base low. I think it's a great thing, but let's just be cautious as we do so. Because the last time we kicked this can down the road, it was 1.4 million, then it was 1.5 million. And I guess the reason this got killed was because they were going to use the taxpayers' overpayment of their car taxes, personal property that year. So in efforts of being transparent, I think the community needs to know more details. For example, kids in the same room under the same programs. In that scenario, there's a lot of details missing here. So I think if we can move forward without increasing the levy, I think it's a good thing.
two things. One, the study that the full report was provided to the county. And if I remember from the briefing the other night and then in reading the study the last few days, it addresses a lot of the concerns that Supervisor Anderson brought up about the separation of childcare, as an example. But the other piece of it, could that study, that 32-page, 33, be available to the public to read? I know it's on our board packet and all that, but is that something that we can make available to people?
It's about 180 pages. The total study is about 180 pages.
Okay.
So
Maybe I only made it to page 32.
we got an abbreviated, I think we gave you an abbreviated version.
Okay,
of
let's
it.
go with that. But anyway, I thought it was pretty comprehensive. But anyway, so we have a motion and a second.
Well, since I was mentioned
Oh,
there,
I'm sorry.
I did read the thing and I was at the event as well. But would this be something, and this is our attorney here, that when we get to the point of finalizing that this board votes and approves said project, whatever the grants bear out, could that be put before a public hearing? Or would that be necessary, or could it be possible and get public feedback? Because we had the meetings in one community, but the entire community is going to be in the end paying the bill, which is the entire county. So can I direct that toward we're in discussion.
Should I go to the podium or you hear me?
Just speak
You're
loud.
fine.
You could put it to you could advertise a public hearing and hold a public hearing on that issue. As far as moving forward to expend monies. Right now, as I understand it, the motion would be to get that pre-development grant, and do some preliminary work, and also, that would not commit you to additional phases. Generally, when localities receive grant funds, there is a request from the funding agency asking for the county to sign off and say, we intend to move forward with this. Even that's non-binding. It's just something to put in the so the grant agency knows you're at least serious about moving forward. It's not legally binding. You're not obligated to move forward until you decide that you have this amount of grant funds and this will satisfy the project, or we understand what at least the local contribution will be, and you can decide that issue before you're bound to move forward with anything. So you have to be comfortable with whatever the financing options are before you're obligated to move forward.
But that could be, before we move forward, could be a public hearing.
You could hold a public hearing on that.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll look for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'm also aye, so 5-0 vote to move to tree development. Okay, good.
Sorry, I missed something. Okay.
So you are good.
I don't know about that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
All right, let's move on. Old business resolution declaring Grayson County, Virginia as pro-life.
All right, sir, at the last meeting, you, staff was directed to work with our county attorney to, work up a resolution declaring Grayson County as a pro-life county. We've done that. Would you like for me to read this?
Consensus of the board, should we wait, Brandon? Yeah, please, thank you.
Okay. Whereas it is the view of Grayson County Board of Supervisors that human life from the moment of conception to the moment of natural death is worthy of moral consideration and protection. And whereas the Declaration of Independence drafted by Virginian Thomas Jefferson affirms that all persons are created equal and have been endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, specifically the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which are secured by governments instituted among the people to right in their powers from the consent of the governed. Whereas the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution affirms that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Whereas the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution affirms that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Whereas the United States Supreme Court in Polk versus Doe found that the United States Constitution does not forbid a local government pursuant to democratic processes from expressing a preference for natural childbirth instead of abortion. Whereas the United States Supreme Court in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization found the United States Constitution does not confer a right to abortion, overruling Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, giving the Commonwealth of Virginia the full power to regulate any aspect of abortion not preempted by federal law. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Grayson County is aware of the numerous harmful community impacts which often accompany abortion facilities, including violence, threats of violence, and civil disorder, which could tax the resources of rural localities such as Grayson County. Whereas the Grayson County Board of Supervisors hereby finds that all human life through all stages of development up until natural death in Grayson County, Virginia, should be afforded protection by their government from all forms of cruelty and should be treated with humanity and dignity. Now therefore be resolved by the Grayson County Board of Supervisors as follows. The Grayson County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and declares that the full humanity of the preborn child through all stages of development up until a natural death shall henceforth be promoted, protected, and defended in Grayson County, Virginia. Grayson County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and declares that Grayson County shall stand as a pro-life and promote a culture of respect for all human life. Grayson County Board of Supervisors hereby affirms to uphold this resolution by all means within its power and authority in accordance with its responsibility as elected representatives of the residents of Grayson County, Virginia, in accordance with federal and state laws to the maximum extent practicable. The Grayson County Planning Commission is directed to review the county's zoning ordinance to evaluate permissible amendments which might be enacted to promote the protection of life. That the county staff are directed to contact our state and federal elected officials to encourage appropriate legislation to protect life from the moment of conception to natural death. That county staff and the county attorney are directed to monitor the status of legislation and litigation, both in the federal courts and in Virginia courts as applicable, concerning abortion and protection of unborn life, and to report to the Board of Supervisors regarding the impacts such legislative actions and legal decisions may have upon the county's ability to take further actions in keeping with this resolution and declaration. That the clerk of Grayson County Board of Supervisors shall deliver an attested copy of this resolution to the Governor of Virginia, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Attorney General of Virginia, the county's legislative delegation. Adopted by the Grayson County Board of Supervisors on this 14th day of September 2023 on the following vote of the board.
Okay, so we have the resolution. It requires a roll call vote, but it first needs a motion. Look for a motion for this resolution. So moved. Have a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Supervisor Anderson.
And since we have the attorney, I think you drafted the resolution.
We're sorry, yes.
Okay. Does this take our public hearing off the table for the ordinance?
No.
So we still have an ordinance scheduled in December, a public hearing in December scheduled for the ordinance. And the reason that's significant, I've had tons of people ask me that in the last few days, and I did not think it took the ordinance off the table. I just wanted to clarify that. And
Clarification, it didn't take the public hearing off the table.
it didn't take the public hearing for the ordinance off the table.
That is correct. It is still scheduled for the December meeting. Okay, so last action.
Because this, the resolution that we have here has some very, very strong wording in it. And, but it's just a resolution. And it directs staff, in several places here, it directs staff to, as far as the zoning issue goes and those type of things. But typically, we don't need a resolution to direct staff to do anything, as I understand it. And my point is it sounds really good and really strong, but it's just a resolution. It has no teeth, has no power. It's just basically saying, we as a board, we're opposed to abortion, but we're not going to do anything about it. when we could pass an ordinance and do something about it, we could take a stand. So it's a little bit of virtue signaling, if you will, in this time of political atmosphere that we're in, with it being election season. And I think this is an effort. We've been threatened by, several letters that we've gotten. Democrat Party has threatened us. The Democrat Party, I hope you get this right in the paper, of Grayson County has threatened us not to pass an ordinance. So I feel like this resolution is a win for the pro-abortion folks. It's not a win for pro-life. It's very wordy, but it has no teeth, has no meaning. And therefore, that's why I'll be voting no. And I put a lot of thought, a lot of time, a lot of prayer into this, because I'm not going to be a part of trying to snow the community and saying we did something when we really didn't do anything. And that's what this is. So this really means nothing. It sounds good. And before the Dobbs decision, this would have been a great thing. I've been all in before the Dobbs decision. But now that the Dobbs decision has come about, we as a community have a chance to take a stand for pro-life. And we're not doing that. And the overwhelming majority of the folks that I talk to want us to take a stand. They want an ordinance. And I hope and pray that they get their opportunity in December to speak to that end. Because this is political theater, if you will. So I wanted to share that, and that's it, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Mel.
Yeah, I'll just, I think this is it's a resolution. It's saying the majority of the people, and where we had a public hearing or not, we've had, this makes, I think, the 5th meeting with public hearing. Pretty much, because everybody's been here. If I had and it all goes back to what Mr. Durbin talked to us last meeting about, is that there's laws. And some of the laws is that, and I'm not going to go into them because you don't have, that the Dillon rule, and we can't do you can't overrule state and federal. I think this is a step. I do think the majority of Grayson County is pro-life, as we are. I don't think anybody here that's not pro-life, but if I had separating church and state, if I had a question on the Bible, I'll ask Preacher David. If I got a question about the law, I'll talk to Mr. Durbin, which in fact I apologize the way he was treated last month. It was uncalled for and very unprofessional and on the verge of being childish. So with that being said, this is one step we can do right now, and I think we should do it.
I just recall last meeting, I asked you a question, Mr. Durbin, that there's nothing preventing the sheriff from enforcing the Comstock Law of 1874 right now. Is that correct?
There's nothing preventing the sheriff from enforcing the Code of Virginia, which limits abortions to very limited circumstances. As far as enforcing the Comstock Act now, I mean, it's on the books. Generally, you see federal laws being enforced by federal law enforcement officers.
He would be in that same position if we pass the ordinance.
I would have that same concern, that we're having an ordinance to enforce a federal law when generally localities don't step into that role. And I question the authority of a locality to do that. That is my concern. That's what gives me heartburn about the proposal.
So,
Mr. Hash, anything?
Yes, sir. I do have something I'd like to say. I think from the platform which this county board of supervisors stands on, I think this is the appropriate path forward for the
county. I believe in my heart that the majority of the citizens of the county are deeply convicted and passionate about this issue. And that's the value of life, conception to our eldest senior. This resolution in the hands of our state representatives, I think, will be an impactful statement by the people on our stand as a community and as a county. So I don't think this is backing down or cowering to anything. I know it says in 2 Timothy 1, 7 and 8 that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. My sound mind tells me that we need to petition all the counties around us to go forward with us and develop their own resolutions and push that the state of Virginia go forward and do away with abortion and strengthen our state laws. And that's how I feel about it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. This will be a roll call vote.
Are we still in discussion? Mr.
Oh, we are.
I'd like to stress one thing.
Yep.
I hope the community sees how this works. So you were told you've been here 5 times now and you've spoke, and that should be your public hearing. I hope you picked up on that. Because you've been here 5 times speaking about the right to have a public hearing, but now this is going to be considered your public hearing, and this is your ordinance, like it or not. People's voice doesn't matter. The squeaky wheel gets the grease in Grayson County. And right now, the Democrats are speaking louder than the other folks, than the pro-life people, because they sent us a letter almost day one opposing this, and subsequent letters, and they came and they threatened to sue us. And that's where we're at. So I can go ahead.
Now, just for clarity on the record, the public hearing is still scheduled for December. So that it's not that we've done a public hearing, we've had a lot of public comment, but the public hearing is still scheduled for December. All right, so now, any other further comments? Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ash?
Aye.
Mr. Bell? Mr. Ryder? Mr. Anderson?
No.
And I'm an aye. So the resolution passes 4-1. Okay, next thing, new business, request to advertise to amend vehicle license fee ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, as the board voted in the budget sessions for this year's budget, that we need to change the word. We changed from a sticker to a vehicle fee. And so the request is so that we can still accommodate our volunteers, that we change our ordinance to say as such. And this is a request to advertise for a public hearing, working with Mr. Durbin, our county attorney, to change the language to accommodate your all's wishes.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Smith? Okay, need a motion to amend. Okay.
Motion to advertise.
I'm sorry, motion to advertise for public hearing.
So the question, this is gonna help us in efforts to give incentive to the EMS. Is that part of the language changes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so just for the public's knowledge, in the past budget, what we're all concerned about volunteerism in the fire and rescue, right? And so one of the things we've been looking at is incentives, how we get more young folks involved. Now, these are a couple of ideas that we've had that we were able to implement right away. One of them is trash fee waive if you're an active volunteer, and the other one is the vehicle fee for up to 2 vehicles, all right, if you're active volunteer. So that's what this is about. And then specific to this is we've got to modify the ordinance relating to the vehicle fee. So that's where we're gonna have a public hearing on that, and that's what that's about. Okay. So motion to advertise for public hearing to modify the vehicle fee ordinance. So moved. You have a motion? Have a second? Any further discussion? Okay, with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'm also aye, 5-0. Okay, board appointments.
Yes, sir. So from the Airport Commission, we have there's an application attached for to have Lucas Sawyer to be appointed as a Grayson County rep to the passing of Mr. Larry Bartlett. The second one is Bristol Regional Improvement Commission. Currently, Mr. Smith is our primary rep, and I would actually recommend myself as alternate on that. And as you know, Planning Commission, Don Dudley, no one wishes to serve on the Planning Commission. Mr. Hash, if you found someone to replace Mr. Dudley yet.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Okay. And the last one is John Alexander resigned at the end of May. And Mr. Chair, I think you're looking for someone to go there.
I think we have a packet, Casey Johnson.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did. Okay, Casey Johnson.
Okay, so we have 2 positions to fill. Have a motion to approve. Second. Got a second? All in favor, say aye. Well, sorry, any further discussion on those 2? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And I'm also aye. 5-0. On Casey Johnson. And the first, Lucas Sawyer.
Lucas Sawyer. And myself. Yep.
Okay. All right, next one is housing rehab specialist for Eagle Bottom Project Phase 2.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are in phase 2 of Eagle Bottom. We had an IPR specialist, have rehab specialists, to do all the work that you have seen laid out so adequately there on the application. I think it's 12 different tasks that this person does, from inspecting the houses to decide are they worthy of remodel, or do they need to be torn down and just rebuilt. This is through the HCD grant. It's no cost to the county. The IPR specialists, they just do that work. It's required from the DHCD grant that we got. And the deal is the one that was hired to do the job has run into some health issues, not able to perform the duties. And so we advertise for that. We have an application here that the rehab board has gone through and vetted and has approved to send it to you all as our approval, that you all should look at it and give us the final approval if you so desire, to have an IPR specialist to finish out Eagle Bottom Phase 2.
So you need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the application of John Brewer that you
Being
all have.
specialist.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve John Brewer as a housing rehab specialist for the Eagle Bottom Phase 2 project. Do you have a motion for that?
I'd make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, we're gonna let Mr. Hash have the motion. Mr. Anderson's got the second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just would like, for the sake of those that are here and those that check out our website for the board packets and whatnot, this was not in the packet. And we amended the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. This was some kind of time sensitive with the grants and whatnot. So it wasn't anything due to lack of transparency or anything of that nature. I just want to clear that up, because there'd be a lot of questions, but they're not seeing what we're seeing.
Yes.
So anyway.
It just came to us. There's a new position that has taken on the role of this, acting as project manager over at Mount Rogers PDC. And they brought it to us, and time was of essence to try to get this in so we don't lose another month of time to get on with this project, so that was why it was added. Thank you.
Okay. Vote, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And I'm also aye. Okay. All right, county administrator's report.
Nothing for me, Madam Chair.
Okay. The other items, informational items in the packet, time for registered speakers, and depending on the list, we may take a 5-minute break.
And would you mind getting that up on the website? Add to the packet?
Okay, we'll, okay, we're gonna recess for, it's 7 after, so we'll come back at 4 after. Next time for gas.
And then I think you might terminate.
Just needs a.
Pretty good.
Sorry, excuse me, I'm off on.
Is he gonna go to school? Is he gonna go to school?
Okay, I just want to see if the other one in the room is heard what I heard.
Hopefully we do it.
Yes. See, they had a bid last year. Yeah, because it wasn't for existing, it was only for new.
No, I moved over.
You all right?
Yeah, those are from the movie.
stuff. I probably trying to go there.
It's on Gardens, right? You know,
They're all great, too.
well, I know, the night shop.
Independence show last year.
Exciting stuff.
Really?
I could get mine.
Yeah, so when you're driving north.
You're the tech guy here, right?
Yes,
For Grayson.
Fairly new to it. We're kicking it. It ain't burned down yet.
Exciting times. I see right now.
You know, if you ever go to brunch here on Sunday, that's where we, oh my God.
Yes. Numbers are crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. See, also kind of scary.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah. Building called the station.
Around like, they've been playing this for quite a while. Yeah. So they've already got it. Just like,
Yeah. Further along than you think.
Yeah, I'm a beer and a coffee stop. They can ask you, put your address. How are you, man? Thanks for coming.
It's pretty loud.
Last night?
But
Ken Bell said that, I think he was talking about last month's meeting, last month, not last month. What's that? That's the way it is. The mission will continue.
Oh, yeah.
Be a couple more minutes.
okay, good.
After Saturday, we'll make a move. How you doing? I'm out.
Well, that's not.
I got that one in the other car. Yeah, that's right, that's great. You know, be chair for the night, you know.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Good, you.
Huh?
We got our weather.
Oh,
She didn't want to get yelled at.
Oh,
Oh, no, you better.
How we doing?
Long time no see.
When you get to retire?
Yeah, we're just in that lovely trees. We have a groundskeeper coming in. Thanks. Right, thank you.
Bitch coming by. Okay, back in session. Oh. Sorry, Mitch. Get to do the gavel. Okay, we're back in session. All right, next on the agenda is requested speakers and public comment. We've got one letter that I will read for the record. From Baywood Ruritan Club, 13135 Grammar Lane, Galax, Virginia, 24333. Grayson County Board of Supervisors, the Baywood Ruritan Club would like to thank each of you for the time spent on the consideration of the Baywood Community Project. This is especially true of Kenneth Belton. We also would like to recognize Jordan Sidman. He met with members of our community on multiple occasions and represented this project very professionally. He considered many of our suggestions and took the time necessary to address all questions and concerns. In addition, he developed a very impressive report. The Baywood Ruritan Club would like to express our strong support for this project. In the past, the Ruritans used the school for our monthly meeting, fundraisers, and most importantly, benefit dinners for members in our community that were in need. The Ruritan pledge is to support urban and rural communities in time of stress and need through fellowship, goodwill, and community service. The school cafeteria provided us the means to be an important asset to the Baywood community. Our desire is to once again serve our community. The way we were able to is our sincere hope that at the very least, this can proceed with phase one, which will allow our club, churches, and other organizations like the Boy Scouts and the Baywood Rescue Squad to have access to this facility. Having childcare available will immediately generate revenue. This can be used to cover ground maintenance and utilities required. Childcare would provide a greatly needed service for members of our community with young children. The additional potential for the upstairs to once again provide further education for our young people is very important to us, and we know to you as well. The Baywood School has so much history here and can once again become a much needed part of our community. It is so exciting to hear that grant money is potentially available in excess of the cost required for phase one. Contrary to previous reports, finding out that the well and septic are actually in good shape is great news. This is such a relief to us all. According to the engineering firm, both the well and septic can accommodate phase one and more. Our community, like so many others, depend on organizations like our club and facilities like the Baywood School can offer. We can extend our full support in any way needed to assist in moving forward. Sincerely, Baywood Ruritan Club, Dan Boyer, President. Okay, moving on for the folks that are here. Just a reminder, y'all, I think most of them on the list know the game, and you know the game, right? 3 minutes, all right, and I am in control of the gavel, so work with us here. But first up, Ann Rose, please come to the lectern, and then state your address, please, your full name and your address. Thanks.
Hey
Ann Rose, 15 Discovery Lane, Independence, Virginia. And I wanted to thank Zeke for standing up for pro-life. I'm disappointed that we didn't get an ordinance. And the weaker thing is the resolution, which doesn't really mean anything. There's no bite in it. So I wanted to say thank you, Zeke, for standing up for life. I'd like to go back to May 18th at a budget work session here in this room. And by the way, it is election season. So on May 18th, at a budget work session, not a Board of Supervisors session that we're in right now, Supervisor Fant made the motion to set a public hearing for the ordinance in December, and it was seconded by Mr. Ivy. And I guess I just don't understand why it has to be after election that you set that date. Supervisor Anderson at that time noted that it was his understanding that having a public hearing doesn't require action at the time from the board. And if there's further questions, it could be tabled. And a public hearing is more to a process to hear from the citizens of the community. And the idea of moving the public hearing to December was just to thwart that. It is election season. I was disappointed that it's going to be held after elections in November. And by the way, I'm just reading from the minutes. It's nothing that I have concocted. I'm just reading from the minutes in the packet that's on the Board of Supervisors website. Board of Supervisors meeting last month, August 10th, for the minutes. Supervisor Fant again made a motion to ask administration to develop a pro-life resolution versus an ordinance and present it in September. And we do seek the AG ruling on this issue, and that we ask the zoning planning committee to take a look at our zoning ordinance to see what options we might have here. It was duly seconded again by Mr. Ivy. Supervisor Anderson made a motion to amend the first motion, which was in that session. It was to change the date from December to move it forward before elections. So I guess since it is election season, I know Mr. Fant runs as an independent, and Mr. Fant is running again in November. And I do like you, Mr. Fant, I really do. Mr. Fant is running again as an independent in December. Just bear that in mind if you're pro-life or if you're pro-abortion. But the Republicans have a pro-life, conservative candidate going up against Mr. Fant. So we have our choice. We have our choice. We know what our choice is.
Well done, Ann. All right, next up. Janelle Worrell, did I have that right?
Yes, sir.
Come on up, please. State your name and your address.
Janelle Worrell, 202 Powerhouse Road, Independence, VA.
Great.
I'd like to speak for just a minute on making Grayson a sanctuary for the unborn. Those on the pro-life end of the spectrum tend mostly to discuss the death of the unborn children, but little is said about how abortion affects the mothers. A 2017 study revealed that 67.5% of women who had abortions said that they visited a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a counselor after their first abortion, up from 13% who had received mental health services before the abortion. This is over 5 times more than before. 2018 literature review stated that there was a significant association between abortion and higher rates of anxiety, depression, substance use, traumatic symptoms, sleep disorders, and other negative outcomes. According to DC Reardon studies, 53% of women who had abortions felt coerced into it by other people. 65% felt pressured by their circumstances. Only 33%, less than a third, felt as though their abortion was an entirely free choice. Former actress and model Amara Rose Perez chose to get an abortion as a very young woman. She was greatly pressured to do so by her partner and was afraid that if she did not, she would lose her job. She says now behind abortion is a big business run by men who make women believe that they're fighting for their rights, when what they're doing is harming their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. She also stated, I do not know a woman who has had an abortion and has not lived through hell, but I know many mothers who have had their children and they are their greatest blessing and happiness. We have an opportunity to keep this hurt from ever coming to Grayson County, but a resolution is just resolving to do nothing. We ask that you make Grayson County a sanctuary for the unborn. Thank you.
Thanks, Janelle. Tracy Cummins.
Yes, Tracy Cummins, 743 Powder Mill Road, Elk Creek, in the heart of Christmas tree. Anyway, I'm proud to speak after her because the information I wanted to share with you all is just a quick little fact. We are moving ahead, of course, with our PRC. I spoke with Mr. Durbin about what to look for in a lawyer. We're looking at lawyers and accountants, and of course we need money. So I ask everyone here, put your money where your mouth is. Right in my hand. Anyway, we need your money so that we can get this nonprofit 501c3 up and going. I think it's going to cost a little more than I have. So I look forward to partnering with your churches, with your groups, and especially with the Board of Supervisors. I would love to have personal television. Anyway, interesting fact, since we have been technically out there, July, it was the 1st of July, that had a website up, that we've got a Facebook page up. I've put my personal phone number out. Lynn Roberts has put her personal phone number out. We've given information to the health department. We're slowly gaining some momentum. But since July, I have not had one single client contact me needing help with a pregnancy or with any care of a child. I have had clients contact me wanting help getting post-abortive counseling because they heard I had contacts for that. And I hope that hits you all like it hit me, like a ton of bricks. People have good families in this area. I'm sure there are some who struggle with having babies. I know that's not reality, but we have good people here that will help people have children and have babies and help them through hard times and job losses and all of those things. But we don't have people here that have the counseling ability to help the women that Ms. Jana was talking about. Those are things that this ordinance could prevent. It's the hurt that nobody talks about. And I've seen it forefront in just putting my phone number out there. The people that have called me, I would have never thought in a million years. They've not told anybody that they've had an abortion. They don't feel like they can tell anybody, and they're still struggling with it 50 years later. I just wanted you to know that. And I do have post-abortive care counseling information. I have the resource to share. I don't have that ability myself, but I do have the resource. 276-768-8744. Call me.
Laura George, state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Reverend Laura George. I manage a interfaith church at 88 Oracle Way, Independence, Virginia. I almost passed, but I felt I needed to address Mr. Anderson, who seems to think those of us who believe a woman has a right to bodily autonomy are happy with what happened tonight. I'm not happy in the least. Not happy in the least. I might have walked away feeling a little bit of comfort had the board, in addition to passing the resolution, table the ordinance. But unless I'm missing something, nothing's changed. I think it's a huge assumption for those four who did vote in favor of the resolution to assume that the vast majority of the residents of this county follow a minority Christian position on when life begins. Not a a minority religious position, a minority Christian position. And yes, I'm very aware that I have moved to a Christian evangelical part of Virginia. But the law of this land is religious freedom. And most religions do not believe that personhood starts at conception. I would be remiss if I didn't also say I am seriously offended by the quoting of Thomas Jefferson in this resolution. The man stood for religious freedom. He was so proud of the Virginia Act for Religious Freedom, it is on his tombstone, and he's probably rolling over in his grave right now, that the Declaration of Independence was used to support this resolution. We have over 800 signatures on a petition, many of whom are residents of this county. Please stop assuming that most residents here are happy with this resolution. We are not. And lastly, I just want to say that you have heard from just as many people during these meetings who are opposed to the ordinance, and I'll just speak for myself on the resolution, which is further evidence that this county is not uniformly monolithic in their belief when personhood starts. And that is why we have religious freedom in the United States of America. That is why this is a private issue. And that is why, thank God, the statute of Virginia still allows women to make this decision for themselves in the first trimester. Thank you.
Nancy Lieber.
I was just Nancy Lieber at Freeze, Virginia, Riverside Drive. It occurred to me as I was listening to Ms. George speak, various people have cited the First Amendment, freedom of religion, the 14th Amendment. It occurred to me, just as I was listening to her, that this might also be a 13th Amendment case. That is involuntary servitude. The attorney said the Comstock Act would come back into force if abortion became illegal in Virginia in this county. And that was an act that was passed at a time when women did not have a political voice. They did not have the vote. So there are multiple issues here, and I have previously spoken about the foolishness of pursuing an ordinance, a law, whatever, that people will pay no attention to. They didn't before abortion was legal. The rate, per capita rate of abortion was high, perhaps even higher than today. Most recently, statistics out of Texas and other places where abortion has been prohibited or access to it, the rates of abortion in the short time that this has happened are just as high. So, what do people of good will and moral values do? Sweden allows abortion up to at will for 18 weeks. But Sweden also has universal health care. It has extended parental leave. It provides enormous support that is absent here. Mr. Anderson, who will never be pregnant, who will never have to work at Walmart, have 2 kids to support, find a third on the way, and wonder how he's going to do it. He will never have to make those decisions. But we know from what occurs in other countries, if
you provide support to women, then that increases your birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, that's the end of did anybody that wants to speak, did not get a chance to sign up? Everybody good? Okay. So that ends the public comment period. Thanks, everybody. Looking at the agenda, there's, no one's talking to me about board of supervisors time, no closed sessions.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Stand by.
Sorry, I don't, we're not, it's the last second thing we were talking in the, during the break. So we have received a request we're receiving a request from different fire departments regarding the funding that they're receiving, coming up. And they are wishing to sign to move forward on the funding that you've authorized the EMS to utilize. Mr. Durbin, we were talking about this, and they can't move forward unless we have a public hearing on this. And so we need to set a public hearing for the next supervisors meeting. Anything else on that?
Yeah, basically what happened is the vendors or finance companies, I'm not sure which, because I haven't received all the documentation yet, but they're asking for the county to sign off that this is an approved entity that we're approving funding for. They provide service, public safety services for the county. I don't see any problem with doing that, but and the reason they're asking for it is to comply with Internal Revenue Code regulations. I'm assuming to get tax exempt financing or tax benefits financing. And in order to comply with the Internal Revenue Code, we have to have a public hearing before we give that authorization. So it's more of a formality than anything really, but that is a necessary step to advertise and hold up.
So, any questions from the board?
We can add that to the next meeting agenda.
Well, if we can add to the next agenda, then we push it another month. So
I mean, can we have the public hearing at the next?
that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. You need action from us.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, we need action from you.
So,
Steve,
question, yeah.
Steve,
I'll make the motion that we have a public hearing on financing for EMS at our next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion.
And fire, I think, is also emergency
services.
Yeah, just same mercy. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion of a public hearing in October for funding for emergency services. You have a second? You have a second? Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yeah, please, Mark.
I was approached by fire department, and I appreciate the moving forward on this. The issue at hand for them is they've been looking at fire apparatus, and they needed assurance, or the financer needed assurance that, that the funding would be there through the length of the loan or whatever. And so they can't move forward. And I think maybe a couple of the other agencies has maybe made purchases. And so this is putting them in a bind. And I appreciate us going ahead and getting something and moving forward on this.
Okay.
We'll work to have some type of MOA or MOU with the EMS is laying out parameters of how the time where this money can be spent, all that other will be presented as well.
Okay. All right. No more discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'm also aye. So public hearing in October. All right. We're good? All right. Motion to adjourn. So moved. You have a second?
Just one thing, I do have kids and I did raise them and I did pay for them. And as far as I know, it's Sweden or Switzerland, I think if they've got open borders, then,
All in favor?
I didn't hear what you said.